want to take you back to August of 2000. What were you doing at that time?
I was student teaching at Oconee County High School.
Were you in college?
I was.
Where were you in college?
University of Georgia.
Beginning that August of 2000, did you move into a new residence?
We did, yes.
And what was that residence?
We lived in Deer Park on Fallen Drive.
Who were your roommates there?
Tara Baker and Ashley Peavy.
How did you come to know Tara?
I had met Tara probably sometime the year before. Ashley and I lived together the year before, and so I met Tara through Ashley.
And can you describe, I guess, what it was like to get to know Tara as a roommate, as opposed to a friend or an acquaintance?
We all got along very well, and I mean, we were all very busy, either in grad school or finishing up college at the time, and we were just all busy. So we all got along fine, and everybody kind of did their own schedules.
Okay. And if I didn't clarify this earlier, in that fall semester 2000, did you graduate that December?
I did graduate in December.
And then did you start a graduate program in January?
I did. I had started my master's degree.
If you could please, ma'am, describe what you observed about Tara as it relates to the fall semester.
My schedule was different in the fall because I got up early to go for student teaching. So I was gone a lot. I know she had started law school, and so her schedule, she was busy. So we really, didn't, we were home in the evenings together, but we again, everybody had their schedule, and we were extremely busy, all of us, that particular semester especially.
During the fall, would Tara occasionally spend the night at her boyfriend's house?
Yes.
And by boyfriend, do you mean Chris Melton?
Yes.
Would there be times when Chris would spend the night over at Fallen Drive?
I don't recall.
As you transitioned from the fall semester into the spring, or I say spring, but January semester, did you notice a kind of a change in Tara's approach to law school?
She had made comments that,
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I don't want you to testify to anything that she may have said, but just did you get an overall impression as to her approach to law school?
Yes. She'd started another semester. I was starting grad school, so I think a lot of our patterns had changed just because it was a new semester.
Okay. And what change was that, if you can recall?
Probably at home more. I know I was at home more.
What about Tara?
Same. Mm-hmm.
So on Thursday the 18th, do you recall what your schedule was like that day?
I had class. When I started my grad program, a lot of my classes were in the evenings. So I would have been home, and I think I left sometime before maybe 4 o'clock or around 4 o'clock. I can't remember the exact time. And I had class that evening till probably 7:15 or 7:30, I believe.
And what did you do after class?
I was going home for the weekend, so I immediately started heading in that direction when I left.
So you didn't go back to Fallen Drive?
I did not.
Did you see Tara that day at all?
I don't remember. I think that she probably got home the time I was leaving. I don't remember.
Ma'am, what, if anything, do you remember about the weather that evening as you were leaving town?
It was very rainy. I do remember that, just driving in the rain and, it being dark, but I just remember that it was raining.
I want to talk about kind of the relationship between the three of you in that house. How did the three of you get along as roommates?
We got along great. Ashley and I had lived together the year before, and it was no different when Tara moved in. I mean, we all got along great. There was no girl drama or anything like that sometimes can come along with roommates.
Were you careful to look out for one another?
Yeah, we were all safety conscious about things being locked and that kind of thing. I've always been that way.
Did all of you have boyfriends at the time?
Yes.
Did anybody give an apartment key or a house key to their boyfriend?
I have no knowledge of that.
Why would that have been?
I don't think that they would have ever been at the house. There would be a time.
Any response to the objection?
I'll rephrase the question.
All right, I'll sustain it. Let you rephrase if you choose to.
Based on the relationship that the three of you had, you, Ashley, and Tara, would you have given a key to your boyfriend at the time?
No.
Why not?
There would have been no reason for him to have been at the house if I would not have been there.
Based on your impression of the relationship, again, that you shared with Ashley and Tara, was that consistent throughout the house?
I would assume yes.
Ma'am, I've been told that, well, let me rephrase. Were you the one that would keep the house clean?
Yes.
Can you describe that a little bit?
I was just the clean one of the group. There's always one, I guess, when you live with roommates. And so I was the one who would clean and tidy up the house, and just that was something that I enjoyed and still enjoy doing.
Do you remember, or if you recall, in the days after Tara's death, do you recall hearing about certain parts of the house being wiped down or anything like that?
I do remember hearing that.
What if anything, do you recall about that?
I think at the time it was more about, fingerprints, or they were, doing whatever you do after something like this happened, and the house was clean and things were, wiped.
Do you recall what areas of the house they were referring to?
I remember they asked, certain patterns of cleaning, if, I would have cleaned this or cleaned that, that kind of thing. But it was, maybe doorknobs or around the doors or windows, that kind of thing.
And is that something that you would have cleaned?
Not typically. I mean, I kept things dusted and vacuumed and just your normal thing, but I didn't deep clean the house all the time.
Dr. Lowe, we'll talk a little bit about your observations of Tara's relationship with Mr. Melton. Is that something that she would have confided to you about?
No, we didn't have that kind of relationship. I was private, and I would have never. I mean, we didn't talk about that kind of thing.
Did you ever personally observe any arguments between Tara and Chris?
I did not.
Did you ever hear Tara arguing on the phone with him?
I did not.
Bear with me just a second. Questions I have. Mr. Cruz may have some questions for you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Dr. Lowe, first and foremost, I want to let you know I am sorry for your loss, tremendously sorry for your loss. I thank you for your courage in coming to testify in court to help the jurors find the truth in this case. My first question for you, are you nervous?
I think anybody would in this situation.
I tell you don't be. I have some very softball questions for you, if that's okay. Okay. There was a statement that you made to law enforcement that I wanted to ask you about. Do you recall stating it was almost like somebody knew that we weren't going to be home?
If you'll show me the transcript, I can.
I don't have a
On that.
transcript, but I can play the recording for you. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. Your Honor, excuse me, would the recording refresh your recollection?
Sure.
Your Honor, I like to play the recording outside the presence of the jury.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have you go into the jury room. Please don't discuss the case. We'll be with you shortly.
No, the only thing that and this is probably in some of the notes from way back when, I think like New Year's, like I always came home for breaks and stuff, like I'm a little homebody, but we went to, Ashley and Chris and Jeff and I went to Hilton Head for New Year's, I think. So we came through Athens, maybe to pick them up or something, and Tara was there, and we were like, what are you, why are you here by yourself kind of thing, it's a holiday,
This is of 2001, right? Or like 2001 and 2001.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's like, oh, I'm going to go, or maybe it was, I don't even remember, it may have been right before Christmas. At some point during the holiday, we went to Hilton Head just for the weekend, and she was there, and we were like, Tara, why? It was New Year's, because we wouldn't have been gone for Christmas, and we were like worried about her being there, like, you need to go home and be with your family, like during break or whatever. Like, we just were shocked that she was there. And, we went on our trip or whatever and came back to school, in January or whenever classes started back. But when class started back, we hadn't been there, 2 weeks, because I had just graduated in December and I was starting my master's in January at UGA. We had not been back, whatever week or week and a half, whatever all that was when all this happened. She hadn't been going to Chris's house at night. So when I say she went there that often, it was weird that she was at home.
Oh, okay. So I didn't catch that earlier. Like, she was at Chris's house, like, almost nightly?
It was a lot.
Okay.
It was for that, but like I said, I can only speak to first
3 months,
semester.
yeah.
I don't know, what her life was like before. But when we came back from break, and Ashley will tell you the same thing, there was a significant change in that. But again, that's her business. We didn't want to ask any questions. And I think maybe Ashley or I maybe did say, are y'all okay? And, so maybe they were having a tiff or whatever. But Tara was really private about her life and, details and that kind of thing. But there was definitely a change when we came back in January. She was not spending, she wasn't spending the time she had been spending at Chris's.
Okay.
Which is, why everybody was, wondering if something was going on. But we, like I said, we didn't pry, we didn't ask, that was her business. We just said her, basically just checking on her. And Ashley, she may have exposed Ashley, yeah, we had a tiff or a fight or whatever.
Yeah.
But
it was like a noticeable shift.
Definitely.
Is that fair to say? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, it was definitely a shift. And like I said, you can go back to the notes of when all that, and I'm sure that
I'll have to go.
we said the same thing, because it was just, like I said, I can't remember a lot of things, but I remember the details of a lot of this that were just very vivid to me, that something wasn't right.
And she was a very private person.
Yeah, she was, she wasn't one to overshare, what's happening in life. And maybe to Ashley, maybe she confided in her more, because, they were friends for a long time.
Okay. Were you aware of any of her sexual life with?
More so probably day to day, doing stuff together, hanging out, because Tara was always doing the law school thing and studying.
Okay.
And, and I think going back to the whole Chris and January thing, I don't know. I remember one of the things she said was oh no, I'm just trying to buckle down and I'm basically she needed, that was a distraction for her, and she was buckling down on her studies was kind of the way she blew off when we checked on her to make sure she was okay. Just because her behavior had changed. And not her personality or anything like that. She was no, I'm just...
her routine.
I'm just, yes. And, if you live with somebody and something's completely... thing, and she was I don't see anything that's missing, from your stuff. Everything looks just like you left it. It was, in perfect shape. Like nothing's gone. I even had, there's big jars you throw in money and change, and I even had like that in my, like, if somebody wanted, if they were coming there to rob us, they would have, I mean, I
Had a
had
field day.
expensive jewelry, I had, purses, I had like, I mean, they could have taken a ton of stuff, but nothing.
Do you recognize your voice?
Yes.
Is there a first recollection?
Yes, those are my statements.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Trying to make good use of everybody's time.
Yes.
I think this is probably a good time to address Mr. Cruz's residual hearsay motion.
All right.
I would say that the state does not oppose him asking what I
All right, let me get the residual hearsay motion, though, that you're talking about, because there were 3 that were filed. So, all right, so Mr. Bolden, you're talking about the pending motion that the defense filed on January 20th with regard to Dr. Valery Lang. Is that right? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and your position is?
We don't oppose that motion.
All right. Any response?
No response.
All right, then I will grant it. Motion was filed. The state does not oppose it. All right, anything else before we bring the jury back?
No, ma'am.
All right, could you bring the jury back, please? Please be seated. Mr. Cruz.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Lowe, you would agree with the statement that the day that Ms. Baker was killed, it was almost like someone knew that you and Ashley weren't going to be home. Is that correct?
Those are my statements.
I can't hear you.
Those are my statements, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Can you pull the mic up? Thank you. And the reason you said that is because it was rare for both you and Ashley not to be home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'd like to discuss your observations of Chris and Tara's relationship. Is that okay?
Yes.
During the first semester of school, Miss Baker, Mrs. P.V. Hall, and yourself, you all stayed together at 160 Fun Drive. We would agree on that.
Yes.
Okay. You would agree that during the first semester of school, Miss Baker would always be at Chris Melton's house. Is that fair?
I can't say always. Often. A lot.
Do you recall telling Investigator Black, first semester of school, she would always be at Chris Melton's house all the time, like every night. It seemed like she was never at home. And then when we got back for second semester, Tara wasn't doing that anymore.
That's concurrent with what we just heard, yes.
Well, no, that wasn't on what we just heard.
Right,
That's a separate. Okay.
Yes.
But you agree with that statement?
Yes.
And you would have no reason to disagree that the first semester of school entailed August of 2000 and December of 2000.
Correct.
All right. Let's talk about second semester. Okay, and second semester for the purposes of our conversation, would have been January 2001 until May 2001. Was that fair to say?
Yes.
Now, on New Year's Day of 2001, do you recall stopping back by your house at 160 Fun Drive?
I don't remember exactly. It's been 25 years ago which day we stopped by, but we did stop through Athens.
Based on the recording that you heard, do you recall stating on New Year's Day 2001, you were on the way to Hilton Head Beach? It was you, Mrs. Ashley P.V. Hall, Chris Hall, and your significant other. Do you recall making that statement?
Yes.
And when you stopped in at your home on New Year's Day, you found that Miss Baker was home alone.
Yes.
And you were shocked to find Miss Baker home alone on New Year's Day. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, typically college students would go home during the holidays, but I, hadn't lived with Tara, so I didn't know her patterns of when she went home and when she wouldn't have gone home.
Okay, and based on our discussion regarding how she was with Chris from August to December, is it fair to say that you probably expected her to be with Chris?
I don't know where I would have expected her to be. It was the holidays, so.
But you and Miss Ashley P.V. Hall, you two were with your significant others. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, from January 1st to January 19th, that's going to be the focus of this portion of our conversation, okay? You would agree Ms. Baker has stopped going to Chris Melton's home. Is that right?
She hadn't stopped going there. She just wasn't going as often, I would say. I don't remember fully, how many days a week or anything like that.
Do you recall making the statement, when class started back, we hadn't been there in like 2 weeks, we had not been back, week and a half, whatever all that was when all this happened, she hadn't been going to Chris' house at night. Do you recall making that statement?
Do you have the transcript, or is that what you just played?
Do you recall making that statement?
I'd like to see it.
You would like to hear it?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move to introduce minute mark 1632 through 1651 of Defense Exhibit 22, which is court's indulgence. Ms. Lang, do you recall speaking with law enforcement agent Elizabeth Bigham?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see Ms. Bigham in the courtroom?
Yes.
Okay. And you've heard portions of your recording with Ms. Bigham. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that it was you on that audio?
Yes.
Okay. Had it been altered from what you heard? Had it been altered in any way?
I'm not aware that it had.
Okay. Thank you. Your Honor, I would move to introduce portion or minute mark 1632 through 1651 of Defense Exhibit 22 into evidence.
Any objection?
I don't know that he's laid the grounds for it being an inconsistent statement. So I guess I would object on those grounds.
All right, I'm going to sustain the objection. I think that's correct, but I'm going to let you refresh your recollection, and I'm going to ask the jury to go into the jury room one more time. Please don't discuss the case, and we can do that.
Well, Your Honor, I have a case for you.
I'll let you.
But
outside the presence of the jury.
Yes, ma'am. So, Your Honor, just for purposes of the record, I provide the court with Hayes v. State, which is 320 Georgia 505, page 518. That is 910 Southeast 2nd, 198. This is a 2024 case. It states, if a witness testifies that he cannot recall making a prior statement, this is the same as a denial, and extrinsic evidence of the prior statement may be presented in evidence. In support of that proposition, I also cite Scuniers, which is S as in smile, C as in car, O as in orange, N as in nice, Y as in yellow, E as in eggnog, I as in rhinoceros, and S as in sailor. V State, 318 Georgia 855, 901 Southeast 2nd, 170. That's a 2024 case. Also, Murdoch v. State, which is 299 Georgia 177, page 179, which is a 2016 case, cites or states, if the witness testifies that he cannot remember the underlying facts, this is an implied denial of any prior statement on those facts. So I just wanted to put that on the record, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. I think at this point, Mr. Cruz, I'll let you refresh your recollection. The understanding of the court from this witness is not necessarily that there's no memory of any statement being made, but the specific question that you asked. You can go ahead and refresh your recollection. If that doesn't satisfy you in your questioning, we'll go ahead and talk about sort of the next steps, and you can renew your motion.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. And let the record reflect that I am playing minute mark 1632 through 1651 of Defense Exhibit 22, which is identified as Ms. Valery Lowe's interview with Agent Elizabeth Bigham.
Back. We hadn't been there 2 weeks, because I had just graduated in December and I was starting my master's in January at UGA. We had not been back a week and a half, whatever all that was when all this happened. She hadn't been going to Chris's house at night. So when I say she went there that often, it was weeks.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Any other questions of this witness?
I know, ma'am.
All right, any other motions we need to take up before the jury comes back in?
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, you may call the jury back in. You all may be seated. Mr. Cruz, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, during the month of January 2001, Ms. Baker had stopped going to Chris' home. Is that correct?
Yes, I don't know how many days a week or anything like that, but she was not going as often.
My question specifically is, during the month of 2001, Ms. Baker had stopped going to Chris' home. Is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
You also noticed that she was no longer spending much time with Chris. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You would agree that there was a noticeable shift in the relationship between Chris and Ms. Baker before her death.
I don't know anything about their relationship necessarily, but her patterns had changed.
Okay. Ms. Lowe, you recall speaking with Agent Bigham in regards to the shift in Ms. Baker's relationship. Do you remember that conversation?
I do.
Okay, so this isn't the first time you've been asked that question about the shift in Ms. Baker's and Chris Melton's relationship. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And your statement to Elizabeth Bigham when she asked you, but it was like a noticeable shift, you said definitely, it was definitely a shift. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Would you agree that some of your answers have changed here today versus when you spoke with Agent Bigham?
No, they have not.
No?
I mean, it's been 25 years, so I've been asked lots of questions over the years.
That's fair. And you would agree that you spoke to Ms. Bigham last year. Is that correct?
I believe it was, I don't remember when the arrest was, maybe 2023?
Sorry. I am incorrect. Do you recall speaking to Ms. Bigham on May 3rd, 2024?
Yes, I do remember speaking with her.
And some of the questions that I am asking you, you've learned are the same questions that Ms. Bigham has asked you, correct?
Yes.
And would you agree that some of the answers that I've gotten originally have been different from the answers you've given Ms. Bigham?
I don't recall that, but I mean, I listened to the statement that you played.
Okay. Is there any reason that do you feel the need to protect Chris Melton?
No, I don't.
Okay. And you are going to be truthful and honest with the jury?
Yes.
Okay. After noticing the shift in Ms. Baker's relationship, do you recall asking her if everything was okay?
Yes.
And based on Ms. Baker's response, it is fair to say that your takeaway was that Chris was no longer a focus for Ms. Baker.
Her focus was on school.
Is it fair to say that her relationship with Chris was a distraction for her?
Yes. Her focus was on school.
Now, we've agreed that on January 1st, or New Year's Day, Ms. Baker was home alone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And January 19, 2001, she was killed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I like to put this in context for the jury, okay? We agree that 3 people stayed at 160 Fund Drive. We've already discussed that. We agree on that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And although Ms. Single may or may not have been single, I want us to assume that she's with Chris Melton, okay?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. We're going to assume for this conversation that Ms. Baker is still with Chris Melton on January 19th, okay?
Yes.
You were dating Jeffrey Hall.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 3 roommates. We have Jeffrey Hall. Ashley Peavy was dating Chris Hall. Okay, so we have Chris Hall. So we have Miss Baker. We have you. We have Mrs. Peavy Hall. I want to make sure I get her name right. We have Chris Hall. We have Jeffrey Hall, and we have Chris Melton. So at any given time, there could be 6 people in that house. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And even with the single car in the driveway, there could still be at least 2 people in the house. Is that right?
Correct, if someone had somebody there.
Okay. Well, boyfriend, girlfriend, couple. Is that fair? Okay. Based on the number of people that could be in the house at any given time, is it fair to say that it seems as if the person that killed Miss Baker was certain that she would be home alone?
Your Honor, I object. That calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Your statement to law enforcement was that it was like someone knew that she was going to be home alone. Is that-
In my objection, Your
I'm going to overrule that objection.
Can you repeat that?
Absolutely. Your statement to law enforcement was that it was like someone knew she would be home alone. Is that correct?
I did make that statement, yes.
Now let's talk about the items that you had in your room, okay? You had a jar full of change and money in your room. Is that right?
Correct.
That was not taken.
No, sir.
Okay. You had a lot of purses in your room, correct?
Correct.
Those were not taken. Is
No,
that
sir.
right? And you also had expensive jewelry in your room. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that also was not taken. Is
No,
that
sir.
right?
No,
And
sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
No. I think you were answering. I spoke
I
while
said
you
no,
were
sir.
speaking. I'm sorry.
I said no, sir.
And all of this was in the open in your room, correct?
Yes, sir.
But none of your property was missing from the home and everything looked exactly how you left it.
I did not go to the house, but yes, everything was still there.
Yes, ma'am. Based on none of your valuables in your room being stolen, is it fair to say that it seems that the person that killed Miss Baker came there specifically for her?
Yeah, speculation.
Sustained.
But nothing was taken from anyone in the home?
No, sir. Or not from my room. I can only speak to myself.
Yes, ma'am, that's fair. I have no other questions for you. Thank you so much, Dr. Lowe.
Any redirect, Mr. Bolden?
Dr. Lowe, you mentioned that in the fall semester, Tara had been spending a good bit of time over at Chris's. Were you aware of where that apartment was?
Yes, sir. I believe I remember.
Where was it?
I believe it was off Millage.
Is that here in Athens?
Yes.
In January, do you have any knowledge as to where Chris was living at that time?
I think he was living in the same place, but I don't fully remember, but I think he was.
Do you have any knowledge of him spending more time at his parents' house?
I remember times that there were, if he had work, in that area, yes.
And then lastly, Dr. Lowe, I for some reason can't remember to ask this question. In the days subsequent to Tara's murder, do you remember being asked to submit samples of your hair in connection with the investigation in the case?
Yes, sir.
And did you provide those?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, ma'am.
Any recross, Mr. Cruz?
No, ma'am.
May this witness be excused?
They would ask that she be excused.
Any objection, Mr. Cruz?
If she's under subpoena from our office, I just ask that she stays on call status.
Is she under subpoena from your office?
Abigail would know. Wilson would know. He'll be here Friday. But I believe she is. I believe all of Miss Baker's roommates and family members are under subpoena from our office. I just don't want to say it certainly without.
All right. You are free to go for today if you are under subpoena. It's unclear to the court whether you are. You are? Okay, thank you. You are still under that subpoena, but you are free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may call your next witness.
Do we ask the witness if she has been? I mean, she would know.
She just stated she was.
Okay, I didn't
She
hear
did
that,
just,
Your Honor.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
She did. You are free to go, ma'am. You may call your next witness.